All right, what you're looking at is a PC board. It's been milled, not etched, and it was milled by what do they call it? The CNC mill unit. I sold the plans. Later on, it became brute. And if you go look at crankorgan.com, you'll see animations. The page holds my email address, but I've closed it down. For 20 years, I sold plans on how to make simple CNC machines using hardware store stuff. Not all of it was hardware store, because I had a few people buy the plans and some of the stuff in there wasn't. I couldn't get at the hardware store. It was the aluminum channel that's used in shopping mall windows. You go to a window place and they give you the pieces. It's scrap pieces, and then you come home. You have them cut it for you to length, make it look good. Bring it home, add the parts. But I sold plans. And it all started with a guy I grew up with, got a Bridgeport machine that didn't work. I went over there and I fixed it, got it working, and he was jealous. He made my life miserable. To bring Bridgeport out, it would be over $1,000. For fixing the Bridgeport, changing all the transistors and everything that he burnt out, and fixing a few other things, he reached in his pocket and gave me $125. I got even with him. He's dead now, so screw him. But this circuit board, I don't know how well it's showing up. It's not etched, it's milled. And I was selling them on my website. And I would get guys, engineers, that would come in and list all their credentials on the email. And then they would say to me, you can't mill a circuit board with your machine. I was like, boy, you want to talk about sparks. So I say, would you like to buy one? Now this is a Piker 4X. It's 4 motor controllers, or drivers, whichever, what you want to call it. I'll show you in a second it assembled. In other words, this is the milled board that you would get for I think I was selling it for $32. And then later on, I had the board made in Texas, and I still sold it for the same price. I lost money on every circuit board I sold. All right, we take this away, and now I'll show you the completed board, or as they say, stuffed. It's a stuffed board. Let me try to get this in here in such a way that it balances into. All right, here's the board. Oh, it doesn't want to balance. Well, I'm still working on the top of the radio. All right, let me zoom this out. Oh wow, it's really zoomed in. All right, zoom out. Come on, come on. Maybe it doesn't like me to. All right, there we go. All right, there's the circuit board. In here, let me move it over just a little. In here comes from the parallel port from the computer, and you can run your CNC machine. There were several programs that were free. There were drafting programs to make the DXF free. I listed them all, and I taught people. But I had so many trolls. See, they get jealous. I had the machines. I had this controller board, which that's really a driver board. All the time they leave me, and they always leave the messages at night. And when you build a machine that works as good as my Bridgeport, well, a lot of these guys bought Bridgeports, and they never converted it over, and it just sat in the cellar. One guy named his Bridget, and then at some point, it was out on a trailer in his backyard, and he started asking people, what can I slather onto it, type of grease, and put a plastic bag over it to keep it from the elements. It was never going to go in the cellar. It didn't fit. But I put up with so many bullshitters and thick bullshit. Meanwhile, I'm pumping machines out. Now, if you put the last name, my last name's Kleinbauer, you put Kleinbauer CNC, you'll see, I think it's a 7 Soldier model. A guy is cutting out parts of thin plywood with one of my machines. Right? I called myself cranky. My website is crankorgan.com, and it comes from the fact that I built a monkey organ, a crank organ, out of PVC. I showed you that on my video, and I sold that booklet. I think it was it $40, $45? So I sold that booklet, and then I started making CNC machines, selling the booklet step by step, how to build the thing. And a lot of people, oh, you don't have any parts lists. I refused to do it because I would change the machine. As time went on, I'd go back on a machine and and tweak it up, make it a little better. Well, anyway, he doesn't have a parts list on the groups. Don't buy his plans. There's no parts list, but there's a step-by-step, page-by-page tips how to make the parts. The parts are all 2D. They were very easy to make on a scroll saw with a file. The whole machine could be built with like a hacksaw, and I mean a machine that really could produce some precision work. And these guys, they would just circle the internet. Oh, there's no parts list. There's no parts list. I didn't do it. And one guy did a parts list for me. And by the time he got it done for the PCB mill, by the time he got it done, I was already on to brute. I had already made the machine stronger and stronger and stronger. And then I used gas pipe to make the arm that hold the Z-axis. And this guy, he starts passing around. I got an improvement for the machine. He used 2 pieces of gas pipe, but they were thinner. I went to it. The guy's mod was not as good as what I evolved to. And the whole thing was, the machine was stiff enough for what it was supposed to do. Now, there's guys that have to make everything bigger or stronger even though it's not needed. And other guys, when they started building CNC machines, they build what I called hang glider machines. Big. And not realizing that the weight of the material was actually causing the material to bend. All materials look like a diving board. If you look at a diving board, you never saw one before, and somebody draws it up, you picture walking out to the edge and that board staying level, but it don't. It starts to sag. And that's the whole idea of a diving board. You can get it to flex and pop you up in the air a little higher. But they would design stuff on paper and it looked good until you built it, and then alignments became problems. I built everything as big as it could be, and then make it just a little bit smaller. And people are like, well, I want to make that machine 6 foot by 6 foot. And I said, what are you going to use to power the machine back and forth? And at that time, I was using resistor controlled. There was no switching to the motor. There was the digital switching to make it move, but there was no current limiting by switching. It was strictly these resistors here. See if it's in the frame. So I think they called these RL configuration. Oh, those motors are no good. Guy doesn't have any CNC machine. He doesn't know how to do his DXFs. He doesn't have a machine to practice on. Well, these they're old slow machines. You don't want that. Yeah, you want the fastest one for a few $1,000s. My machine could be built for like $250. Yeah, you want to spend thousands of dollars, bring it home, set it all up, and sit there and realize you don't know what the hell you're doing. Now, there was no YouTube back then. Videos, there were a couple websites that had some videos. It was pathetic, you know. And these guys, they were unmerciful. They had nothing better to do with their lives than every night come in on my email and leave me these messages. Your machine can't cut circuit boards, mill circuit boards. I'm an engineer, I know. And I said, you want to buy one of the circuit boards? I just showed you one of them. It's extremely complicated. It's not double-sided circuit board, but I fit a lot of crap on one circuit board. That little Piker circuit board, Piker 4X, would run 4 motors, and then you had to have those external resistors. And you would originally I started showing people how to use a computer power supply. And the motors would move the machine at 6 inches a minute. That's real slow. But guess what? When you're learning, that's real fast. You're like, you've already crashed the machine before you can get to the stop switch. I approached everything logically, cheapest way possible, where they can get the parts. I did all the thinking. And a few people were like, boy, you really thought it out. Yeah, I did. I sat there for hour upon hour upon hour. And then sometimes I'd be walking along. I was walking back then, and I'd realize I could do that easier. I could do that stuff. So I would change the plans. The next guy that got the set of plans, they were improved. And then anybody asked, I would send them another set of plans. If they had bought a set of plans, send another set of plans with the corrections or the mods. They hadn't built the machine. I had people just collecting all my work. They had all my plan. They never built any of it. They just said, I guess at some point they thought maybe I would become famous, and they'd have some work that I did earlier in my life. I don't know. A lot of them just liked the way I drew. I used PC Paint. It comes with, I think it's PC Paint. Yeah, I use PC Paint. I can use AutoCAD. I know how to use it. But guess what? I could build in different scales. I could have different scales, and the part looked like the real part. Well, AutoCAD's got like a funky look to everything. And anyway, I did everything my way. And after 20 years, people started switching over to 3D printers. I think that's what they're called. What happened with me was I was out doing a printer before I had to move from Jersey. I was building a 3D printer that shot out wax, and you could make the part out of wax, and then put it in a mold, and then when you poured the aluminum in, or you could heat the mold up and have the wax come out. It's called the lost wax method. And I was building a unit that instead of shooting out plastic, it shot out wax, and you could make real parts. You had the part made out of wax. You put it in a mold. It's a type of oh God, now I'm going to forget. But anyway, you make a mold of it, and you heat it up, and the wax runs out, and then you can actually pour aluminum into it. Now you got to figure shrinkage sizes and all that. So then you break open the mold, and now you got a part made of aluminum, versus milling the aluminum on the CNC, because some parts are so intricate that that's why the 3D printer drew a lot of people in. When you make a part on a lathe or a milling machine, it's got a very square look to it. It doesn't have a real space age look to it. But I'm cranky. That's what I called myself. And people go, he's like the soup Nazi. If you bother him, there's no soup for you. Yes. After 5 emails that take me a half hour each to read, I realized the guy's not going to buy any plans. He's just playing make-believe. There were so many people on the groups playing make-believe. Some of them bought the motors and the controller, or the drivers, and they put tape on the end of the motors, and they'd spin it. And I called them people motor spinners, all one word in capitals. And motor spinners those motors never make it to a CNC machine. They upgrade the motors. One guy goes, I think my motors are kind of slow. I'm going to go to servo systems. I'm serious. So the servo systems, if they don't have a load on them, they error. Oh, I'm getting errors. And then the guys come in. Guys always tell you, you have to put dampeners on each shaft. You can't believe the bullshit. And there's guys in these groups that memorize the buzzwords. And then after a while, whenever you'd ask a question, the bullshit artist would show up, and you're trying to figure out what the hell's going on. You might have a machine, and these guys don't really know because they don't have a machine. Now, there was one guy that had a machine out of this big group, and he had a Shoreline, and he was making rings on it, and he was trying to explain to these guys certain things, and they were like arguing with him. Here he's got a CNC machine. He's a jeweler. He's making rings, and the rest of them were just all bullshit. Fat old men with fat heads, buggy eyes, glasses on that are too thick. I could pick on them till the cows end. But I went through all this, and here I was. I worked for the guy. He didn't really pay me what he owed me, and I turned it around. Now, what he was doing with his Bridgeport, I was making more money selling plans, and that was eating at him. And somebody says, he's really pissed at you. No, he didn't show me anything. I showed him. And then I turned around and said, I can make a small machine, and people finished them, and make a small machine that they could learn on. And yeah, you could buy a Shoreline over $1,000. There was a modification to put there'd be stepping motors on it, and a controller and a power supply, the whole works. And then they would end up selling it on eBay. And the bed of the machine had big crashes in it. See, they would run the machine at like 24 inches a minute to run a test G code, and it was too fast for them. They couldn't even get to the stop button, and they'd run the Z-axis into the bed, and then they'd have it up on YouTube, not YouTube, eBay. And I used to make fun of it. And the guys in my group were like, you know, you're kind of mean. I said, no, they deserve it. CNC, they made it like it was so simple until they actually had a machine. And they did a poll one time, and only like 5 guys had a Shoreline. The rest in the group, no one had machines. They'd brag about their motors and their servo systems. There was no machine. And after a while, I get in there, and I got kicked out because I kept telling them, they're all bullshit, and they kicked me out. But it was the best thing they ever did, because then I had more time to work on more machines and get it done. And a few of those guys from that group realized, and then they'd write me a nice letter and order a set of plans just to see how much work they'd have to do to build the machine. And you got to remember, a lot of them are 70 years old, and when you're 70 years old, your dexterity goes. You might not have enough tools, but the whole idea of my machine was you could build it with like a drill press, a hacksaw, because the parts weren't real fancy. They were just squared off pieces of PVC plastic, which PVC plastic, gray, 1/4 inch thick, you can cut it with a regular saw. You can drill it, you could tap it, you can glue it. That was the whole idea of the whole thing. One guy, he was like Monk. He kept changing his mind, and 20-something times he changed his mind what set of plans he wanted. So finally, I just sent him a set of plans, and then he emailed me back. There's more plastic on the machine than I expected. You're never going to build it. I won't call you the R word, but you are the R word. You know, you saw a machine, you thought you were going to build it. You're never going to build it. You're playing make-believe. There were so many people playing make-believe. You have no idea. You sit on the conference, and then I one time said that the drive nut off the lead screw has to be twice as thick as the lead screw. So some guy memorized that wrong, and he was going around. Yeah, the drive nut has to be 1/2 the thickness of the lead screw. And then finally someone corrected him. But I used a real tight tapped, with a precision tap piece of Delrin. I became the Delrin guy. And people would write me an email. I want you to explain to me Delrin. I said, try Google. They get really nasty. I'm not going to read a real long email and then answer all your questions, because you're not going to buy anything. You know, out of a plan set was $35, and that included shipping. All the design errors, all the stuff that I did. How much profit do you really think I'm making? And you think I'm going to sit there and answer every single email? Now, the engineer guy that I always tell you about, he goes, well, I would sit there and answer every email because you could have a sale in there. I said, yeah, you believe that I know better. And he was a big bullshit artist. And I knew bullshit after a while. After a while, you just realize they're asking all these really weird questions, and they don't realize what the machine can even do. I had a guy, he wanted to cut a propeller for his hang glider. Hang glider? No, the parasail, right? Parasail. Anyway, he thought $85 was too much for a used propeller. He was going to make his own. And he starts telling me, I'm like, dude, you're not going to make a propeller with a CNC machine. It'll take hours of running. And then you got to do the G code. You know, oh, those aren't available? You know, yeah, someone figured out how to cut a propeller out of a piece of wood with a CNC machine. But he ain't going to give that to you. He can't sell that to you because there's FAA problems. These people don't understand any of this stuff. And I would get involved to a point where I'm not going to make any money. It's a $35 plan set. And then one guy, I've been cheated so much in life that I want you to send me the plans, and then I'll send you the money. I said, you know, I've been in business at that point 10 years. You know, well, I don't care. I don't try. Go away. Go away. No soup for you. I would do that. No soup for you. Go away. Because I understand people now. I understand. I like to razz them and tease them back. You know, jump into my conference and don't watch the video. Don't understand what I've shown you, and then start telling me stuff. You think you have more knowledge than I do. I have 20 years of designing CNC machines and helping people build them. And You don't have that either, do you? You know, like I said, that one guy, oh, I can't figure out how to do videos. Now, one guy just said he did a few videos. Yeah, when you watch your own videos, your voice, and that's the first thing it'll bother you, is your voice. You always sound dumber than you think you are. Trust me, I get past that. And then what I do is, when I'm doing a video, is I realize I'm telling you something you didn't know. Like in this case, I'm telling you who I am. I'm cranky. Worldwide, people hated me. Oh, he won't sell me the plants. So the guy from Germany would get a relative over here, buy a set of plants for me, send it to the guy. Guy goes on all the conferences in the United States. Oh, he uses parts you can't get, which was bullshit. And someone says, "Where are you from?" I'm from Germany. And then the guy says, "You know, he doesn't sell to foreign countries for that reason. You know, I'm using hardware store parts based on the United States hardware. Same with the gas pipe, the inline roller skate bearings. I use those." Guy goes, "Oh, Wang Dung Flu, or Fu, whatever his nickname was on the conference. Oh, you don't want to use those roller skate bearings. They're no good. They're incredibly good if you buy the replacement bearings and the high quality ones. And you would get like 12 bearings for $20 or something. They're really good bearings. Oh, you got to use cam following bearings from a car, $25 each. There's a genius for you. You're building a machine to make toys on it, clocks. They were doing all kinds of things, but it died out. After a while, it died out. Everybody's making the tugboat in 3D printers. And the tugboat became the standard to figure out if the machine is working correctly, or if the filament is right, or the slicing software is set correctly. They're making tugboats. You know, I right away went right into milling circuit boards and making money. And then other people were making guitars. And back then we didn't have videos. There is one video on YouTube. Like I said, put in Kleinbauer CNC, and you'll see that this is 7 Soldier, and that was a slightly bigger machine, and that was made for people to cut RC parts, balsa wood and plywood for RC planes. And then that sort of died. Everybody went to quadcopters, drones. Yeah, everything in CNC sort of like disappeared. And I had people, they wanted to be able to cut tungsten. Yeah, I want to cut tungsten. I want to cut carbide. I'm like, the machine is basically a few grades above a toy. They didn't understand why the machine wouldn't cut steel. They would not see, in their mind, the cutter goes along and cuts the steel. They don't realize the back pressure, how much friction that blade is making on that steel. Also, on that kind of machine, you have to use flood control. You have to shoot oil onto the cutter. And the machine's made out of PVC and some plywood. It ain't gonna work. And then then you got everybody started getting into plasma cutters. Why won't you tell me? I want to turn your machine into a plasma cutter. I said, did you buy the plans? No, I'm not talking plasma cutters. You burn your house down. Why? No, I'm not getting involved with it for insurance purposes. I tell you to do something, you do it wrong, you pull me into court, your house is burnt down, the insurance won't pay for it. Yeah, there were people for a while, they're really annoying. Why don't you do a plasma cutter? How come you don't? Go away. Why don't you figure out how to make a plasma cutter, and you sell the plans to people and put up with the nonsense like you're giving me. Let's see you do that. Come on. Yeah. Oh, I don't have the time. I don't have the time for certain things, but I make the time by not doing what I'm supposed to be doing. And that's the thing about other people. They think you should do all this work, and they shouldn't. They would actually email me hundreds of times. I need you to stop and do and work on this idea I have. Who the hell are you? Oh, you could be in the psycho ward right now emailing me. I don't know you. Well, go away. Just go away. But I have this idea. Patent it. Well, yeah, you can't patent it because you don't have the money to patent it. It's probably something that's already being made. You can't believe the emails. Every day, 30 or more emails that you have to read through. And some of them, the people would make it so long. It's an hour and a half, just an hour and a half to read through it, memorize what they asked. And then, like, this guy's up to question number 30. And those people, they never buy anything. They just talk, 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 talk. And that's what I went through. That's why I am the way I am. I basically was naive. I thought I was going to produce machines people would build and learn how to use CNC. No, that's not how it works. They get the plans, they look them over, and they put them in a drawer somewhere. Then they're at a party. Oh, I just bought a set of plans. I'm going to build a CNC machine. I'm going to make this. I'm going to do that. Yeah, that's what the real world is like. And then early on, when I was doing the plans, there were guys that were finishing the machine. And some of them had cameras, and they could send me pictures. But for the most part, I got it all done. And the one guy said to me, the honest truth, I got it all done. I had the machine carve my name in a piece of wood. I'm finished. That was the goal for him. You have to learn the software. You have to build a machine. You have to learn the software. You have to draw your name. Then you have to convert that to DXF to G code with another program, which I had listed, was for free. And then it goes out. It carves the guy's name in the piece of wood, and then he's done. Another guy helped. He was doing for his wife. She was a teacher. He made some Christmas trees, cut out Christmas trees, and put the kids' names in each one. And he spent days. He goes, "You think you got it right?" And then the kid's name is too long. I gave him the program that made you put the name in, and it makes the G code. And then there was a program you could actually run the G code, and it actually had an animated machine, KV fax. Anyway, it would actually show you the machine cutting the wood. And I would tell these people, go use this, go use that. It was fun, but a lot of it wasn't fun. I think that's it. All right, that's it.